Welcome to Manifest 360, the podcast where we break down the science and strategy behind creating a life that actually feels as good as it looks. I'm Bob, that's Vipin. Today we're diving into the ultimate trifecta, body, mind, and spirit. And that's all something that we all are dealing with on a daily and a weekly and a yearly and a monthly basis. So, I mean, we're all dealing with those things at all times. Vipin, I wanted to mention before we get too into this, my dad's here visiting. I know that you're visiting your family as well in the Chicago area.
Yep.
And it's kind of crazy to think that you look at life and you look at the fact that when we were little kids, we looked up to our parents and stuff, and now that that we're older, seeing them in a whole different light, rather than looking to them for guidance and things, you kind of feel not equals, but you feel like you're closer to them than you were when you were a kid. Obviously closer in age than you were when you were a kid. But you know what I mean? It's just it's kind of weird to look at things that way. And like I mentioned, my dad, I'm visiting with him this weekend. Next weekend my mom, and the weekend after that, we're actually flying to Dallas and going to spend time with Monique's mom. So I mean, it's bang, 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 3 weekends in a row with folks.
That's awesome. No, I'm visiting with my mother and my sister and her husband and family here in Chicago. I think it's one of the most important things is family. But it's interesting that you said something in there about you used to look to them for what they know and their experience.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere in life, it transitions where you don't do that anymore. I found that people, especially parents and family, and maybe close friends, depending on the stages of life, get stuck and can see certain things. And I find that you have newer friends, newer connections that understand your modern you, your new you, your vibration level changes, and so you attract people with a different mindset, a different learning, different thought process. Especially if you've done a lot of work on yourself,
mm-hmm.
and especially the things that we talk about here about manifestation, about purpose, emotional intelligence, things like that, meditation, mantras. Not everybody's done the work that we have done, and you have done in the last 2 years since we've been talking about it. So I think you look towards and look for guidance from experts in the areas, rather than you look up to your parents for respect and love and kindness and family values. But it's one of those things that I've noticed is that my circle of influence from the standpoint of people that are influencing me has changed. And then I connect with people at a different level. It doesn't mean that it's bad with the people that I've associated with last year or 2 years ago. It just means that I'm more attracted to the people from a philosophical, intellectual level, emotional level, people who keep up with the pace that I'm on, rather than people who were in my past.
I think we attract what we need. I mean, if you think about it, we're all under self-preservation. We all want the best for ourselves, and I think that we attract what we need at the moment. Because you hit the nail on the head with the different people that we have in our lives. I mean, the people that we knew 40 years ago are not the same people, and if they are, they're not the same person that they were 40 years ago. But they've constantly built themselves and worked on themselves and became the person that they needed to be. And if you're with them now, it's the person that you needed to be with.
Yeah. And then what I find is not everybody stays at the same vibrational level or the same pace level of what you need, or what you want. Mm-hmm. And I'm specifically talking about friends. So I had this aha moment. Let's go back to the last week or so before we start talking about this moment. About a week ago, I signed my book deal, right? I got an offer and telling my friends about it. You got excited. A few of my friends didn't get excited, didn't even acknowledge it. These are guys that I hang out with on a weekly basis, play golf and go to the restaurant, bar, / whatever, even though I don't drink. And I was disappointed. And specifically with the 3 guys. And
right.
So I quickly learned that they are where they're at. I'm not going to feel bad with them. Maybe we still exchanged texts yesterday. Somebody's birthday, we still had a group texting. I'm not going to resent them for it. I'm just going to leave them behind where they belong. I'm going to attach my attention and energy towards people who were appreciative, grateful, congratulatory, knew how hard I worked for the last 21 years and 17 years, 18 years, 21 actually, and who knew that it was really important to me to do this. And so that's just something to think about as we transition to our topic of body, mind, and spirit.
Right. Real quick on that. There's a lot of people that, say that they want you to do well. Hey man, I hope you do great. But in the back of their mind, a lot of people I think it's more of a jealousy thing where they're, oh shit, he's doing what he says he's going to do. He's knocking it out of the park. And I'm just sitting here doing my thing that I'm doing on a daily basis and not doing anything different, not changing up the way that I'm doing things or the way that I'm living my life. And I think that a lot of it, Vipin, ends up being more maybe a jealousy, And I've felt the same way with people. I mean, people are that you think are in your corner really aren't in your corner. You really only have a few people in your life that are like, you know what, Vipin, that's great. I think you're doing a fan.
I agree,
and that's just something that I've noticed over the course of my life.
I think jealousy is a really strong word. I don't know if they're jealous. Maybe they are. I don't know. Just don't know.
Right.
One of the things that I think gets in the way for people is the key part of what you mentioned after the jealousy part, which was they realize they're not doing or living the life that they want to live. And they're stuck. And they don't want to admit it to themselves. And they don't want to do the work to change things. They're happy and content where they're at, or they're unhappy and content or discontent where they're at, but they don't want anybody else to know that. That, I think, could be definitely a reason as well.
Let's take a step back. Look at what you said, your big news of the week, actually. You signed a book deal. Yeah. That is something that we've been talking about the last couple of years, and as you mentioned, it's something that you've been working on for a long time, ever since you actually wrote your first book, and we actually talked on the radio years ago when you did that. But that's a pretty cool deal. I mean, how did that transpire? What happened to make that happen?
2.5 years ago, I accelerated my spiritual growth and personal growth by reading a ton of books, reading a book a week. With the help of finding an agent through a professional company, I tried it on my own. I couldn't do it. I hired a company out of New York, and the agent is really amazing in chemistry, in alignment, and vibration. And so we agreed to a deal, and I can't publicize the name yet because we've agreed to the terms and agreed to the deal, but we haven't actually signed the dotted line yet.
Manifestation isn't just mindset, it's alignment across, mind, body, and spirit. And it's kind of great that we're able to take the topic and then tie it into the whole Manifest 360 name of the podcast and the name of your app.
When you first introduced the topic, you called it body, mind, and spirit. And just now when you said it, you said mind, body, and spirit. That's okay. I want to make that distinction, because that distinction became clear to me last week. That's why we're talking about this topic today. The distinction is body, mind, and spirit. The biggest circles that we focus on. If you lose your body,
you're done. You got nothing.
You're literally done. And for me, I threw out my back on Thursday, and it's the most painful I've ever been in. I went to a chiropractor / spinal injury expert on Friday here in Chicago. He spent an hour and a half fixing me. The body is what you focus on. Doesn't matter how much money, how much whatever you have. If you don't lose your body, you're done. Spend all the money that you have. If you got some serious illness like cancer or heart disease or something, you'll spend on your body. So body is really, really important. And what's interesting about the body is we need food, so therefore we work. We need shelter, therefore we work. We need community to be physically happy. We need relationships all for the body, right? That's important. Definitely got to focus on that. But that's not enough. Once you get this Maslow hierarchy of needs, the body needs are not enough. You need intellectual management, especially if you're going to succeed or manifest whatever you want to manifest in life. Manifest is just another word for wanting and getting what you want. So let's say you want a house, you want a job, you want whatever. You want a relationship. Manifesting allows you to do that, but you need mind which is your thoughts, your beliefs, your purpose, all of that stuff. So that's where the mind comes in. The mind determines your actions. Your mind determines, you could be depressed and not go to the gym. It can impact your body quite a bit. So the mind's really important. So intellectual stimulation, growth, personal development, emotional management, that's the mind, right? We all understand that. The third one, the spirit. I used to say the mind, body, and soul, or body, mind, and soul. I think mind, body is what I used to say, and the soul. And the spirit word is very interesting. The soul says to me, it's my soul. Spirit all of a sudden brings in this traditional Christian holiday thing around the Holy Spirit and spirit, right? Spirit is everywhere. And that's what I think of when I think of spirit. And so spirit is a fascinating word for me because it means that it can be within me, it can be in everybody else. It's kind of that universal intelligence. It's kind of that spiritual, spirituality comes from spirit, right? And so that's really what that's all about. Being a spiritual person, you understand spirit, you want to acknowledge it, you want to be aware of it, you want to realize it in yourself, you want to work on the spirit, whatever that is for you. It could be a traditional Christian, it could be your God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus for a Hindu, it could be whatever, the soul and dharma and all that stuff, right? So spirit is very interesting to me. And so all three make up this triad, like you said, three most important things. And a book that I read a couple of months ago now, maybe 3-4 months ago, and I read it a bunch of times in audiobooks and things like that, written by a guy in the 1920s. I'm not going to mention his name at the moment because it's not important. He talked about taking care of all three. And he actually used the word spirit. And I thought to myself, it's really interesting. For body stuff, we need physical activity, food, shelter, money, all of that stuff is really important. Sometimes I forget about that. Sometimes I don't think about it. Sometimes I forget about the intellectual stuff. Sometimes I forget about the spirit. So to be truly happy or in balance or getting what I want through manifestation, I need to be able to work on all three. We are living in a rational world. We're spiritual beings living in a rational world. That's the body part, right? That's the money part. That's the purpose part. And so that's kind of where I got the idea from for the topic today. I think we have to cultivate all three. We talk about all three in this podcast. We've talked about all three for a long time.
Oh, we have that's what has basically been the entire time. Even when it was Fall, Rise, Give, we still talked about body, mind, and spirit. And the body thing, it's like right now you said that your back is sore. And if you're in pain, your body, then your trifecta is not really in the proper alignment in order to get to achieve the goals that you're trying to get. If one is off, it seems like they're all off. At least for me.
I want to talk about something that happened last night with my back. We went to a restaurant about an hour away, and we knew it was an hour away. I thought it was going to be half an hour away. It was an Indian restaurant that had my last name in it, so I thought it was interesting. It was a fusion restaurant, Indian fusion. The fusion part of it took over from the authentic Indian part.
So what was it fused with?
Asian mixture of stuff. There's a dish in Indian restaurants now that are popular because a lot of Indian people like Asian Manchurian food. The Manchurian sweet and sour kind of a sauce that goes into like chicken and things like that. Kind of like a General Tso version of chicken, like orange chicken, but a little bit more spicier. It had some of that flavor. The chicken tikka masala, which is this orange red dish that is very popular, and almost all Americans love it because it's kind of creamy tomato sauce, had no tomatoes in it. It was more curry based.
That was probably the Indian. That was probably the Indian part of the food, with more curry and things.
Yeah. It just wasn't very good. Oh. And then coming back from there, I wanted to get the heck out of there. My back was hurting. We ended up doing some things, and in my experience, we weren't doing things fast enough for me to get home and get rest.
Yeah, impatience sucks, doesn't it? It's like, come on, let's go.
And so I finally just let it out. I'm like, hey, this sucks. Let's get the hell home. You guys are killing me. So I had an emotional reaction that I don't want to have normally ever, right?
Right.
But it's because the pain that I was in that I behaved, my mind part took over, and I wasn't very spiritual in how I reacted. I ended up having a moment. And so that body piece can impact your mind, and the mind can impact your spirit. So all of that was happening for me last night. And so, yeah, it's everyday life. You just got to shift and come back. Immediately got home, put the pain pills in, and see if that helped a bit better. Yeah.
At that point, you should have just said, you know what, it's not for me, and then moved on to the next part to make it more spiritual for yourself, Vipin. Yeah. Remember, kind, lover, kind, centered, and loving. Remember that.
No, it's calm, centered, and loving.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Calm, centered, and loving. I brought that up. My dad, like I mentioned, my dad's visiting, and I mentioned that to him. I'm like, Dad, Judy is calm, centered, and loving. You should learn from her. Judy is his wife.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, I bring it in everything that I use. In the business world, I told you I use calm, centered, and focused. It's my main mantra that I can help people with, and I'm going to promote the heck out of it because I think it solves almost all of our problems. It's just repeating to yourself that you're calm, centered, and loving. And it really can shift your energy in a high levels. It can affect all three areas of your life. Being calm is physical. Being centered starts getting mental, right? And loving definitely is spiritual. So it's funny that the triad, and I had never thought about it until just now, it came to me through the spirit, that calm is really about the body, being physically calm. And then centered is all around the mind. You're going to be centered in what's really important at the moment. And then loving is love is the ultimate universal language, right? God so loved the world that he sent his son and what have you. I know the phrase, but I'd rather not go all the way deep into the Christian philosophy.
Since you sent me the topic ahead of time, I was able to do a little bit of Googling, a little bit of research, and getting things ready, so that way we have something to talk about when we're doing the podcast today. And, it's funny, when I put in the body, mind, and spirit, it had three different ideas that popped up for me. So, like for the body, take a walk, which we've talked about many times, taking a walk and getting out and doing something for yourself. For the mind, replace one negative thought, and we've talked about that many times as well. I mean, we all have those negative thoughts that kind of creep into us every day, all the time, and if you just replace one of them and just not follow through with the negativity and move that to a positive, then you're working on clearing that out and clearing out the mind. And then for the spirit part, it says write down 3 specific gratitudes, and that's something that you do that we've actually talked about many times as well, about the emails that you used to send to yourself that you now incorporated into the Manifest 360 app. Yeah. So I mean, we're doing a lot of these things on a daily basis, or at least trying to, but in order to to talk about them and think about them and to jot them down and think about this is what these different things are, it's kind of nice to have like a thought process of these are the things, these are the 3 steps that we need to work on.
So I want to dig into one of them, the 3 ideas that you had, but I want to just kind of summarize on the walk. I oftentimes can't get to the gym. I used to be able to get to the gym every morning. Lately, I haven't been able to. But I walk every day for at least an hour. And since Thursday, I went for that walk 70 minutes. I came back, my back hurt. So Friday, Saturday, and today's Sunday, I'm not going to get a walk in for 3 days. That really sucks for me. Walks are like my savior. I do my mantras for an hour when I walk. I do my mantras big time. Now, so walks are critical. How do you do it? How do you do walks? Just get out the door, put on your shoes, and walk every morning.
One foot after another.
Just
like the old special. Put one foot in front of.
Just do it. Second one you mentioned, this negative thought thing. Bob, let me ask you, how do you change a negative thought? This is the biggest question in life. And
are you asking me how? Are you asking me how I do it?
Well, yeah. 1 second. Let me rephrase that a second. Everybody leaves you with, change your thoughts, positive, blah blah blah, and they all say it. But how do you change when you're pissed off and things are going wrong or whatever, how do you change it in that moment when you're triggered? How do you change your thoughts?
For me, I take a pause. I stop. I take a pause. I try to think real quick, like on the spur. I try to think about it real quick. It's like, okay, do I need to be? And the calm, centered, loving thing has actually helped me out a lot because because there's times you blow up. I mean, there's times that
everybody does.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Everybody does that.
And I find as I'm getting older, I've gotten better at it. I know that when my kids were little, when my kids were young, that was not something that I did. I was not a calm, centered, loving. I was loving. Sometimes I was centered, but I wasn't calm. And I think as I'm getting older, as I've lived life and I've realized that the more upset I get over something stupid, it doesn't really matter. And the things that I've worried about in my life, it doesn't really matter. None of that stuff really, I mean, sometimes it happens, but a lot of times you spend all this time worrying about stuff and it never happens. So that's kind of how I take a step back. I guess that's the answer to your question, Vipin. I take a step back, I take a deep breath, and I try to relook at it or think, you know what, shit happens. Things happen, and move on from there,
So you originally answered the question that I wanted you to answer it, and then you backtracked. That's okay. Pausing is the first step. I agree with that, 100%. Just pause for, they say like 5 seconds is all you need. Mm-hmm. Don't react for the first 5 seconds. When you pause, you immediately start the calm functions of your brain. And then you said, I've been doing this calm, centered, loving thing. And then you went on and said shit happens and all this stuff. You kind of reasoned with it. To get to the level of shit happens and I got accepted and all that stuff, there's a lot of gap between that pause and to reason with yourself that shit happens. How do you feel that gap in between? That's what my book is about. That's what I'm about. That's the thing that you are about now for the last 4 months we've been talking about, calm, centered, and loving. That's the tool that fills that gap between pause to come to a emotional / rational thinking that says, shit happens, it's okay, I accept it. It's recognizing and repeating that mantra in that moment. That's how you shift your thoughts. I'm calm, centered, and loving. You pause, you say, how can I be more calm in this situation? How can I be more centered? How can I be more loving? The thing that I want to leave you with is this calm, centered, loving thing, or this body, mind, and spirit thing. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be calm, centered, loving all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is when you get triggered, how do you get back to being who you want to be? How fast can you get back?
Be better today than you were yesterday.
And figure out a mechanism to get there fast. And that's what I try to teach people. That's what I try to say is calm, centered, loving is the mechanism to get there fast. Because you're going to have triggering moments. We're human. Always going to be human. Always going to be somebody that flips us off for no reason. Somebody that hits our car for no reason. Somebody that affects your back for no reason. All stuff's going to happen. It's not what happens to you. It's how you react. And sometimes you're going to react in a bad way. I think something happened. This guy was acting weird or doing something on the plane or on the airport, and he was making faces. And I just turned the other way. I'm like, you know what? I don't even want part of this energy. I'm just gonna go walk the other way. And it's just a woman did this kind of sigh thing. Somebody cut in line. Somebody cut in line in front of me and her at the gate coming in. And I'm like, I got more things to worry about than getting mad at somebody cutting in line. And I'm not going to get heated over somebody and trying to be right, saying you cut in line. You know what? You felt like cutting in line, you cut in line. I'm 10 seconds behind you. I'm okay with it. It's small stuff. I'm not going to put losing energy.
And that wraps up this episode of Manifest 360. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't just think about it, apply it. Alignment isn't a vibe, it's a practice. Belief, emotion, strategy, and action, all moving in the same direction. That's where momentum lives. Be sure to follow, share with someone building something meaningful, and join us next week as we continue helping you manifest wealth and purpose. Manifest 360 is a podcastforhire.com production.